Hello, my lovelies. Welcome to the Resilience Project. I am your host, Janet Rosales. Thank you for joining me on my journey to dismantle the stigma behind mental health. I hope to foster a safe space for others to join me in sharing their stories and create a community where we can lift each other up in the hardships that are included in life. Welcome back. On this episode, I'm diving into attachment styles, those early relationship patterns that shape how we connect, cope, and build resilience. We'll explore the four main types: secure, anxious, avoidant, and disorganized, and how each influences everything from our friendships to romantic relationships. Understanding your attachment style can help you recognize your emotional patterns, navigate challenges with more confidence, and strengthen your resilience. Let's break them down and see how knowing your style can truly transform your relationships and your life. Now that we've laid the foundation, let's get real. Attachment styles are something that impacts every one of us, whether we realize it or not. If you're hearing about this for the first time, here's the deal. We all carry attachment styles. These styles are shaped based on how we were raised, specifically the kind of connection we had with our parents or primary caregivers. Whether it was one parent or both, they all deeply impact how we attach, connect, and show up in every relationship in our lives. And what's fascinating is that these attachment styles don't just show up in romantic relationships. They show up differently in friendships, with family members like siblings or cousins, even in professional settings. You might find the way you relate to an aunt or uncle is very different from how you show up with your close friends or romantic partners, and that's all connected to this invisible thread we call attachment. So what are these attachment styles? Like I said, there are four primary types: secure, anxious, avoidant, and disorganized, also sometimes called fearful avoidant. Each one shapes how we respond to challenges, how we connect or pull away from others, and how we bounce back from life setbacks. Let's start with secure attachment. People with secure attachment typically have an inner sense of safety and trust that shapes how they relate to others throughout their lives. This doesn't happen by chance. It's the result of early experiences where caregivers were steady, responsive, and supportive. When children consistently experience that someone is there to comfort them when they're upset, meet their needs, and provide predictable care, they develop a deep belief that the world is generally safe and people can be relied upon. This core belief becomes the emotional bedrock on which secure attachment is built. This foundation of safety leads to key qualities in securely attached individuals. For one, they're usually open and honest in communication. They feel comfortable expressing their needs and emotions without fear of rejection, which is very nice, I should say. Instead of shutting down or lashing out during conflict, secure individuals are often able to manage disagreements calmly and with empathy. They understand their own feelings and can also tune in to how others are feeling, which supports healthier and more constructive interactions. Because they've internalized that they are worthy of love and that others can be trusted, secure individuals can both give and receive support comfortably. They know that reaching out for help is a healthy behavior, not a weakness, and that being vulnerable is part of building genuine connections. All of this contributes directly to emotional resilience, the ability to bounce back from setbacks, regulate emotions during stress, and cope flexibly with life's challenges. Resilience itself is an interesting dance between being independent and knowing when to seek interdependence. Securely attached people strike a balance between autonomy and connection. They explore the world with curiosity and confidence, knowing they have a reliable home base to return to whenever needed. This secure base supports not only their personal growth, but also their ability to maintain meaningful, long-term relationships. They don't need to constantly prove themselves or worry about abandonment. They believe they are inherently worthy. Research shows that secure attachment is linked to a host of positive outcomes, including higher self-esteem, better social skills, healthier boundaries, and greater tolerance for frustration. These individuals tend to be optimistic and hopeful, maintaining the belief that problems can be solved and obstacles overcome. Emotional intelligence is often high. They can identify and regulate their emotions and empathize with others. They accept and respect others' boundaries and expect the same in return. Importantly, secure attachment isn't about perfection or never experiencing difficulties. It's about having a solid emotional foundation that helps someone navigate those difficulties with resilience and grace. When challenges come, whether it's a personal loss, a relationship conflict, or a stressful change, securely attached people tend to respond with balanced emotions, rather than getting overwhelmed or shutting down. They have learned that even hard times are manageable because of the inner trust grounded in early life experiences. Developing secure attachment is a gradual process that starts in infancy, but can continue throughout life. While early caregiver consistency is crucial, adults can also move towards greater security by cultivating self awareness, engaging in healthy relationships, practicing vulnerability, and seeking support when needed. Therapy, mindfulness, and consciously choosing emotionally available relationships are all pathways towards strengthening secure attachment. To sum it all up, secure attachment is the emotional safety net that gives people the confidence to face the world, the resilience to bounce back from adversity, and the emotional tools to build deep, satisfying relationships. It's a powerful foundation for mental health and well being because it fosters trust, both in oneself and in others, and helps people find balance between independence and connection. Then there's anxious attachment. Anxious attachment is marked by a desperate craving for closeness, mixed with a profound fear of abandonment. People who identify with this style often find themselves caught in a push pull dynamic, longing to be near others but simultaneously terrified of being left behind or rejected. This creates a constant inner tension that shapes how they experience relationships and manage emotions. One of the hallmark traits of anxious attachment is the need for constant reassurance, whether it's in a romantic relationship, friendship, or a family bond. Those with this style might frequently seek validation that they are loved, valued, and not going to be abandoned. This can look like repeatedly checking in with the partner, feeling uneasy when a friend doesn't respond quickly, or needing frequent affirmations of emotional security. This isn't just about insecurity in a superficial sense. It's tied to deeper wounds where emotional needs were inconsistent or unmet in early life, lacing each relationship with uncertainty. Because of this underlying insecurity, people with anxious attachment often struggle with self doubt. They may find it hard to trust themselves or others, second guessing how they are perceived or whether they truly deserve love. This can turn into emotional hypervigilance, where they are highly sensitive to subtle changes in tone, mood, or behavior that others might miss. A neutral look from a partner might be interpreted as a sign of looming rejection, or a busy day might spiral into fears of abandonment. These heightened sensitivities make emotional recovery from setbacks slower and more exhausting. It's common for those with anxious attachment to face challenges in setting healthy boundaries. In their drive to maintain closeness, they might sacrifice their own needs or tolerate unhealthy behaviors to avoid conflict or distance. This can foster codependency, where their sense of self becomes wrapped up in pleasing others or constantly seeking affection. However, there is a profound beauty in the anxious attachment style's capacity for emotional depth. People who resonate with anxious attachment tend to be highly empathetic and deeply attuned to the emotions of those around them. Their hyper-awareness can make them excellent caregivers and advocates, skills they grow stronger in as they develop resilience. Many learn to recognize when worry is only a shadow of their fears, and with support, they become adept to managing those feelings rather than being controlled by them. Their resilience journey often includes building strong support networks where they can feel safe expressing vulnerability and receive consistent care. Through therapy, mindfulness practice, and relational healing, those with anxious attachment can transform their patterns, learning to hold their own needs with compassion and trust in their capacity for secure connection. In summary, anxious attachment is more than just a fear of abandonment. It's a complex dance of longing, fear, and deep emotional sensitivity. Its challenges can be significant, but it also gifts its holders with remarkable emotional attunement and strength. Understanding this style is the first step towards healing, self-advocacy, and cultivating lasting resilience. On the flip side, we have avoidant attachment, which often develops from early experiences where a person learned that their emotional needs wouldn't be met reliably or consistently. This background shapes a protective way of connecting that focuses heavily on independence and self-reliance. Individuals with avoidant attachment tend to prize their independence above almost everything else. They are often reluctant to get emotionally close to others and may emotionally pull back or distance themselves when relationships start feeling too intense or intimate. This isn't because they don't want connection. Deep down, many actually crave meaningful relationships, but their early experiences taught them that closeness can lead to pain, rejection, or disappointment. So pulling away becomes a way to protect themselves from potential hurt. One of the defining features of avoidant attachment is emotional suppression or minimization. Avoidantly attached people often keep their feelings locked up or deny them entirely, especially those emotions that would make them feel vulnerable, like sadness, fear, or neediness. They might appear calm or self contained on the outside, but internally, they could be experiencing significant stress or emotional turmoil. Many avoidants have learned to turn off the switch on their emotional needs because they didn't get consistent comfort or support as children, so they try to manage pain on their own without relying on others. Avoidant attachment often manifests as a strong reluctance or discomfort with asking for help or showing vulnerability. These individuals prefer to solve problems on their own and may find it hard to admit when they're struggling. This self reliance can definitely be a resilient skill. It allows them to endure hardship independently without feeling overwhelmed, but it can also become a barrier to a deeper connection. Avoidantly attached people sometimes miss out on the healing and strength that come from mutual support and emotional closeness. In relationships, avoidant attachment can lead to emotional distance, difficulty expressing needs or feelings, and a tendency to withdraw at the first hint of conflict or intimacy. Avoidants might keep partners at arm's length to make excuses to end relationships when they start feeling too close. Ironically, their emotional withdrawal often triggers their partner's fears of abandonment, which can create a push pull dynamic. What happens next is often a pattern. Avoidantly attached individuals might start to feel annoyed with small habits or quirks of their partners, looking for reasons to create space. This distancing protects their pride and emotional safety, but can also lead to loneliness or missed opportunities for connection. It's important to recognize that this attachment style is often rooted in a core belief. Others aren't reliable or trustworthy enough to depend on for emotional support. This skepticism can lead to difficulties trusting others and a persistent feeling that I have to do this by myself or I can't count on anyone. Avoidant attachment can also come in subtypes. Some avoidants are dismissive and confident on the surface, believing they don't need others, while others are fearful and anxious internally but hide it by keeping their distance. Both types wrestle with the paradox of wanting closeness but fearing it deeply. The journey of resilience for someone with avoidant attachment involves learning to step out of self reliance traps and gradually open up to connection and mutual support. It's about discovering that needing others doesn't mean weakness, and allowing vulnerability can actually grow strength and deepen relationships. For many, therapy and self work help build healthier ways of trusting and emotional expression, leading to richer, more fulfilling connections. To sum it up, avoidant attachment is a complex balance of protecting oneself through independence and emotional distance. But beneath that surface often lies a longing for safe connection. The resilience they develop from self reliance and enduring challenges alone is a strength. But the next level of resilience comes from embracing closeness and trusting that others can be reliable allies in life's journey. The fourth style, disorganized or fearful avoidant attachment, often arises from chaotic or traumatic early environments. This style frequently originates in early childhood environments marked by chaos, unpredictability, or trauma. When caregivers were inconsistent, sometimes nurturing and safe, other times frightening or neglectful, a child's developing brain receives mixed signals about whether closeness is something to be sought or feared. This contradiction produces confusion and instability around attachment. Adults with disorganized attachment often find themselves caught in a paradoxical struggle. On one hand, they crave intimacy and connection deeply. They want to be close to others and yearn for loving, supportive relationships. On the other hand, they can also fear that closeness because it can feel unsafe or overwhelming. This internal conflict causes them to swing between approaching others for comfort and pushing them away in an effort to protect themselves. The result is unpredictable and inconsistent relational behavior that can feel chaotic to both them and to those around them. Due to this inconsistency, people with disorganized attachment often have trouble forming stable and trusting relationships. They might interact with their loved ones in ways that seem erratic or confusing, sometimes intensely craving connection and other times withdrawing or reacting with fear or anger. Their behavior might include cycles of clinging followed by distancing, showing vulnerability, then shutting down, or expressing affection and then lashing out. This push pull pattern is confusing for everyone involved, but is a hallmark of the disorganized style. Many with disorganized attachment carry a deep seated fear that their loved ones will ultimately abandon or hurt them. This belief often becomes a self fulfilling prophecy. They may unconsciously pick partners who are unavailable or harmful, confirming their fears and perpetuating a cycle of rejection and hurt. They might also sabotage relationships due to mistrust or fear of getting close. This chronic distress stems from early experiences where caregivers were themselves sources of fear and unpredictability rather than comfort, leaving the child unsure who or what to rely on. Emotionally, people with this attachment style often experience difficulty regulating intense feelings. They may have mood swings, struggle with anger or shame, and feel overwhelmed by emotions that seem uncontrollable. Many find it hard to soothe themselves because they never learned effective self soothing skills in childhood. As a result, their emotional lives can feel turbulent and exhausting. Despite these challenges, individuals with disorganized attachment tend to be highly resourceful and remarkably tuned into the emotional nuances of their environment. Many develop survival skills that help them navigate chaotic or unsafe worlds. Skills like acute vigilance to social cues, adaptability, and emotional intuition. This capacity to adapt can be seen as a form of resilience, a hard-won strength forged through difficult early experiences. Healing for people with disorganized attachment often involves learning to trust themselves and others gradually. Therapy and supportive community relationships provide a safe space to explore old wounds and build new patterns of connection. Through this work, they can develop better emotional regulation, more consistent behavior, and healthier ways of relating. Ultimately, the resilience journey with disorganized attachment is one of transforming fear and confusion into safety and clarity. It's about rewriting the story from one of chaotic survival to one of empowered connection and emotional balance. With support and time, those with this style can experience profound healing and create the secure, loving relationships they deeply desire. Each attachment style carries unique superpowers alongside its challenges. Recognizing these patterns isn't about boxing ourselves in, but about understanding how our early experiences shaped us and how those adaptations have equipped us to navigate life in different ways. By becoming aware of our attachment style, whether secure, anxious, avoidant, or disorganized, we open the door to growing resilience, building deeper relationships, and facing life's ups and downs with greater confidence and clarity. That, right there, is resilient living, knowing where we come from and intentionally choosing how we show up when life gets tough. Now, understanding attachment styles goes beyond just relationships. It's a powerful key to emotional resilience. Why? Because these styles reveal how our earliest bonds influence the way we cope with stress, how we view ourselves, and the patterns we unconsciously repeat throughout life. The very first step toward growth is building self-awareness, recognizing why certain emotional triggers pop up, why we feel stuck in old cycles, or why some feelings become overwhelming. This awareness helps us develop healthier ways to regulate emotions, communicate our needs, and seek support when we need it. For instance, someone with an anxious attachment might notice they tend to catastrophize a delay in message or a partner's silence. Awareness allows them to pause, question these worries, and communicate more clearly rather than spiraling into fear. Those with avoidant attachment may notice a tendency to shut down emotionally or withdraw and can, over time, gently begin allowing vulnerability or asking for help. Securely attached people with their ability to stay grounded and connected often become steady anchors not only for themselves but also for those around them, helping others find calm in the storm. Attachment styles also influence how we handle setbacks and recover from stress. Those with secure attachment tend to display emotional flexibility and bounce back quicker. But even if you identify with one of the insecure styles, anxious, avoidant, or disorganized, you can cultivate resilience. It's about learning new coping strategies, fostering trusting relationships, and flipping the narrative around stress, seeing it as something that can strengthen you rather than break you. Healthy, secure relationships serve as emotional anchors. They buffer us from stress and help both adults and children bounce back after adversity. Research shows that even having one reliable, caring person in your life dramatically improves your ability to weather life storms. Becoming aware of your attachment needs empower you to build these meaningful connections, feeling resilience all along the way. But let me share something more personal here, because all this theory connects deeply with lived reality. One of my most difficult attachments has been with my biological father. I've had what we call daddy issues. And I know some of you might relate, feeling uncomfortable saying it out loud or having your own version of that story. For a long time, I was in denial about the fact that he wasn't going to come back into my life. Accepting that absence wasn't just painful, it felt impossible. My earliest memory of him is bittersweet but vivid. I was really little and I remember being maybe at Chuck E. Cheese, The memories grow faint as I get older, but he took the balloon that I had tied to my wrist and cut it off. I remember crying as that balloon floated up into the sky. That moment, losing the balloon as it disappeared, became a heavy symbol for all the things I couldn't hold on to. I didn't have many positive memories with my dad. I was waiting for a man who ultimately wouldn't return. That absence left deep abandonment wounds that have shaped my attachment patterns well into adulthood. It planted seeds of anxious attachment, longing for reassurance, fearing rejection, hoping people wouldn't leave like he did. It brought feelings of loneliness and unworthiness. But here's the resilience part: making peace, sometimes just barely, with that loss. Doing the hard work of healing those wounds is a quiet, powerful act of survival. It's a slow, nonlinear journey, but every step forward shows resilience. Our early caregiver relationships don't just shape our attachments, they build or challenge our capacity for resilience. When trust and safety get disrupted, like in my experience, the challenge becomes learning to cultivate resilience because of what we endured, not in spite of it. Mental health struggles often come from these early relational fractures. The anxiety, depression, or self doubt don't just pop up randomly, they emerge from these early wounds. But the hope is attachment knowledge gives us the power to rewrite old scripts, nurture our inner child, and create healthier, loving connections. For anyone out there wrestling with painful attachments or abandonment, know this: healing is a journey, not a destination. It feels hard, it feels unfair, but resilience grows with time, compassion, and support. Your attachment history informs your story, but it doesn't imprison it. If you want to explore your own attachment style, here are some questions to get you thinking. When you're in a close relationship, do you feel comfortable sharing your feelings or do you hold back? How do you react if someone you care about doesn't respond for a while? Do you feel anxious or okay with the space? Do you worry about being abandoned or rejected? When someone gets emotionally close, do you welcome it or pull away? How hard is it for you to ask for help when you're struggling? Taking time to honestly explore answers to questions like these help you understand yourself better. Step 1 toward greater resilience and healthier connections. Now that we've explored the different attachment styles and how they shape our relationships and resilience, it's important to talk about healing, especially when those early attachment wounds run deep. Healing attachment wounds from childhood isn't simple or quick, but it is absolutely possible. And there are some practical steps that you can start taking right now to rebuild trust in yourself and your relationships. The first step is growing your self-awareness. This means pausing to notice how your past might still be showing up in your present life. Maybe certain situations trigger intense emotions, or you find yourself stuck in the same relationship patterns over and over again. Journaling about your feelings or simply observing how you react in difficult moments can help you spot these patterns. The more aware you become, the more you can start choosing healthier ways to respond instead of reacting automatically. Alongside awareness, developing self-compassion is absolutely essential. Many of us carry an inner critic from those early attachment wounds, telling us we're not enough, that our feelings don't matter, or that we're unlovable. But healing comes from treating yourself with kindness and understanding, the same way you'd support a deeply hurting friend. Mindfulness practices, guided meditations focused on self-love, and inner child work can all nurture that compassion. Inner child work is especially powerful because it connects you with the younger version of yourself, maybe the part that didn't feel comforted or safe, and allows you to say, I see you, I hear you, I'm here for you now. Offering that kind of love to yourself helps rewrite those old stories. Healing also happens through connection, finding safe, reliable people who show up consistently, who listen without judgment, and who make you feel secure can be transformative. It's about practicing vulnerability, sharing your needs, setting boundaries, even when it feels scary, and strengthening your capacity to trust again. If therapy feels like an option for you, there are some proven approaches that work well for attachment wounds. Emotionally focused therapy helps you understand and shift relational patterns. EMDR supports processing trauma and painful memories. Schema therapy targets deep-held beliefs formed in childhood. And somatic therapies work with trauma held in the body to restore regulation and connection. One beautiful practice to consider is reparenting, giving your younger self the care and validation you missed out on. Imagine holding that part of you in a loving and safe way, telling your inner child what they needed to hear long ago. For myself, one of the most important practices I've embraced is gently reminding myself over and over that I deserve love, kindness, and rest. These three, love, kindness, and rest, are like my personal mantra, my emotional anchors that I carry with me throughout every challenge. When life gets tough or when my inner critic grows loud, I turn to these reminders as a way to ground myself and shift my mindset. It might sound simple, but it's incredibly powerful. Sometimes this comes in the form of verbal affirmations, quietly speaking words like, I am worthy of love, I am enough just as I am, or it's okay to rest and take care of myself. Saying these things out loud or silently in my mind helps rewire those old negative messages inherited from past wounds. Other times, it means deliberately choosing to rest, even when my to-do list feels endless or when I feel guilty for slowing down. Forcing myself to pause, breathe, and relax is often the kindest act I can do for myself. What I've learned is that love, kindness, and rest aren't luxuries or rewards. They are essential needs. Meeting these needs consistently makes a huge difference in how I handle stress, work through painful emotions, and build resilience. They help soften the harshness I sometimes direct inwardly and open space for healing and growth. So, whether it's through daily affirmations, setting boundaries to protect my rest, or simply showing myself grace on the hard days, keeping these big three close helps me stay connected to my worth and nourishes my ability to move forward with compassion and strength. I often remind myself that my younger self, little me, would have needed this kindness and care so deeply. Offering that same love inwardly now becomes a powerful act of healing and reparenting. This kind of nurturing can also be cultivated through therapy or journaling, are tools that gently support this inner work. With that in mind, here are some practical exercises you can try on your own. Mindfulness meditation. Even just a few minutes focusing on your breath can help calm overwhelming feelings and create space for healing. Grounding exercises. When triggered, try touching a textured object or feeling your feet on the ground to stay present. Emotional regulation. Name your feelings without judgment. Simply say, I'm feeling anxious and that's okay. Building boundaries. Notice where you feel uncomfortable and practice asserting yourself, saying no or asking for what you need little by little. If you're craving support on your healing journey, joining a support group focused on attachment or trauma recovery can be incredibly nurturing. Hearing other stories and sharing your own offers validation and solidarity. Remember, healing your attachment wounds doesn't erase the past. It teaches you how to relate to yourself and others in healthier, more secure ways. It's often a slow, sometimes messy process, but every step you take builds your resilience and emotional freedom. Even small steps count. A day of journaling your feelings, reaching out to one trusted person, or simply practicing a few minutes of mindful breathing. You deserve this healing, and you're never alone in this. Another thing I want to mention is the mind-body connection and somatic healing. For many of us, when we think about emotional pain, we focus almost exclusively on the mind, our thoughts, memories, and feelings. But trauma and attachment wounds aren't just stored as stories or emotions in our minds. They're also deeply embodied experiences. That means they get held in our bodies, our nervous system, even in muscle tension, posture, and how we breathe. Imagine this: when early attachments are disrupted or traumatic, our bodies learn to protect us by staying on alert, tightening muscles, holding tension, or even freezing in moments of fear or danger. These physical responses continue to live in us well into adulthood, often unconsciously influencing how we feel, think, and relate without us even realizing it. For example, someone with an avoidant attachment style might notice they physically shrink away or stiffen up when someone tries to get close. Someone with anxious attachment might feel their heart race or experience shallow breathing in moments of perceived rejection or abandonment. Those with disorganized attachment could feel this tension most intensely, sometimes pulled between wanting connection and wanting to escape, and that inner conflict shows up not only emotionally but also physically. With somatic healing, you're not just trying to change stories or beliefs in your mind, you're learning to feel secure in your body, which then ripples out into healing your relationships and your ability to face life's challenges. It offers a holistic path to wholeness that many people find deeply transformative. Remember, no matter your attachment style, you're not defined by it. These styles come with unique strengths and challenges, and understanding them is the first step towards building deeper connections and bouncing back from life's challenges. If today's episode resonated with you, I encourage you to take a moment to reflect on your attachment patterns and how they show up in your life. Small steps like journaling your feelings, practicing mindfulness, or reaching out to someone you could trust can make a big difference in rebuilding resilience. As always, any resources and references I mentioned today will be linked in the description of this audio and video, so please feel free to click on what you may need or share with a loved one who might benefit from hearing this. Thank you again for being here. Take good care of yourself and keep nurturing your resilience. I can't wait to see you next time, my lovelies.